Hey, good mornings, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, I told you guys, if you watch my channel, I go through all the news feeds. I wake up about 1:30 a.m. and I start going through all the news stories, TMZ, what's going on in the world and everything like that. And I find a story to talk about. And usually I'll know because the story will just hit me. It'll hit me like a sledgehammer, and I'll be like, I have to talk about this, And as I'm getting ready, as I'm showering and shaving, getting ready to make this video, sometimes my hands actually start shaking. I can feel my heart pounding, the adrenaline as I'm working out in my head how I'm going to make 10 minutes worth of video, how to start it, the whole narrative. And I start getting it's like I almost can't wait. It's like I have to make this video. I love this channel. And this morning I came across a news story, and it was one of those deals where as soon as I saw it, I just got so, the feelings got so intense that I was like, this is the story I have to talk about. Okay, it's about Kid Rock on Joe Rogan. All right, this was just over last day or two. Kid Rock. I used to be a fan of his back when he very first came out, like 30 years ago. I was into Guns N' Roses. I was like 30 years old. I was looking for the next big thing, and Kid Rock seemed cool. It was a mix of rap and rock, I am Kid, bow with the ball, the bang, diddy, 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 said the boogie, said up, jump the boogie. I still remember that. And I cannot stand this guy now. And let me start this video. I'm going to tell you, he said something on the Joe Rogan show. Basically, he's talking about Israel and Palestine. And this is his idea. He thinks Israel should bomb Palestine every 24 hours and take out 30,000 Palestinians and tell them, F around and find out. So if you don't hand over so there was 1,200 Israelis either taken hostage or killed. And I'm not sure how many hostages are still being held by Hamas. It's Hamas now. Now, I watched this movie. I think it was called 200 Yards or 200 Meters, I believe it was called. It was a Palestinian movie. And I think it was an accurate representation of life in Palestine. The father was living on one side of this wall on the Gaza Strip. And his wife and his kids were on the other side, and there was a wedding, and what he had to go through. Just trying to go to a family wedding. He could see his family's house on like 200 yards away. And man, it just, let me give you my background too. And Kid Rock, really, really quick. I'm part Native American. Basically all four of my grandparents are part Native American. My fathers are one type of Native American that I'm not very familiar with. My mother is Micmac, Acadian from Maine. She's part French Canadian and part Micmac, and it's called the Acadian people of Maine. And she spoke English second. She didn't even speak English first. You could tell if you look at me. I mean, you could tell like right now I'm not too dark, but you could usually tell. A lot of people either think I'm Italian or Spanish or Puerto Rican, but I'm part Native American and French Canadian. And I watched a movie the other day. Butcher's Crossing with Nicolas Cage, and it talks about how the buffalo were wiped out. There were 60 million buffalo, like in 1860, and just like a decade later, there was like 300 left. And now, this film was filmed on the Blackfeet Nation, and it was basically about the culling, the decimation of buffalo, and the Native Americans used buffalo for everything, so it decimated the Native Americans. So when I look at Israel and Palestine, I go back. I have a very strong feeling and connection to Native Americans and the way the Europeans came here, and it was just like their country, and they looked at the Native Americans as savages. I've had people on this channel. I had this one guy telling me that to the victor go the spoils. That basically because Native Americans lost or whatever, that the Native Americans deserve to be subjugated and wiped out or something ridiculous. Look what they did. Watch this movie, Butcher's Crossing. It's an accurate representation of just the waste and greed of the Europeans that moved here and what they did, how they just tore up this country for greed and just waste and what they did to Native Americans, you know. And I look at the Gaza Strip and the Palestinians. Okay. Another thing too, like I grew up in a lower working class family. My father died when I was 9. I moved to the bad side of town, and I had to fight every day, basically, you know, until I learned how to fight, until I grew taller and learned how to fight. Every single day I went to the bus stop, I'd have to fight. Kid Rock comes from a good little middle class family. I'll have a link down below. Acres of land and a big colonial house and a mommy and a daddy and all nice and everything. Okay, so this all feeds into, so he's sitting in Joe Rogan and he's all talking tough. He's an armchair warrior. You know, this is his idea. You should just, you know, F around, you know, he's all, you know, sitting over here. And then he says this other thing too. He says, Joe Rogan is kind of the voice of reason in this. The link will be down below. And Joe Rogan says, because Kid Rock says something about Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And Joe Rogan thought he was actually saying about nuking 30,000 people a day. But no, he's just talking about bombing 30,000 people a day, not nuking them. And Kid Rock uses Nagasaki and Hiroshima. He says, you know, sometimes, you know, F around and find out. This is, you know, war is war, man. You gotta do this, you know. Sometimes, you know, you just gotta wipe people out, man. You know, and he says, look at World War II. And then Kid Rock goes like this. He goes, you know, me and you could survive it. You know, him and Joe Rogan, assuming because they have big house, multiple houses, and because they hunt and, you know, they think they can survive a nuclear war. So they, you know, screw it, just bomb everything, you know, violence and death and, you know, F around and find out. You know, and it's just, are you listening to what you're saying? Joe Rogan is actually the voice of reason in this. Like I said, the clip's right down below. So his idea is wiping out 30,000 Palestinians every single day, and until they hand over the hostages. And I start thinking to myself, don't you think the average Palestinian, look at what's the decimation. I think there's 29,000 Palestinians already gone, almost 30,000 already gone. All right. Now, what Hamas did, it was an atrocity. It was disgusting and appalling. And I honestly, I don't think there's no reason to do that to anybody, you know, for land or freedom or whatever. That was just an atrocity. Now look at how Israel has responded. They've become the bad guy. They've become the person that they hate, wiping out almost 30,000 Palestinians, men, women, children. And they use this excuse, well, because Hamas is hiding in civilian targets. Here's an idea. Now, look, you know, the history of Palestine and Israel is a long. I started looking up this morning, and it goes back a long way. But Palestinians have been in that area on the Gaza Strip for, I think it's like 200 years at least. It was Arabs, Palestinians, and Christians before 1948. Here's an idea. Why not just let them have freedom and control of their land like they want? You know, I don't even think it has to be their own country, just like here in the United States. I'm not saying this was, I think this, you know, the way that Native Americans were put on reservations here was disgusting and appalling. But considering what the Europeans how they had already decimated this whole country, the buffalo and everything else, there wasn't much, it was the best thing that could be done at that point by giving Native Americans reservations in their own land, where they can come and go as they please. If they're a sovereign nation, they have their own laws, their own. It's basically their own little nations, in theory at least. Why not just do that with Gaza Strip? You know, instead, right? Kid Rock, the tough guy, the middle class kid, growing up in a nice little house. Sitting safely in America, you know, no chance of going to war, no chance of losing his family or friends or anybody. and he's to F around and find out. He's talking all tough. You know, should wipe out 30,000 of them. And it disgusts me. Do you hear what you're saying? Are you actually thinking about what you're saying? Picture that. All right, just stop and picture 30,000 bodies and homes and decimation. 30,000 limbs, torsos, children, women. 30,000. That's 60,000 legs, 60,000 arms. You know, picture, and that's every 24 hours. And this is what you're suggesting every day. And you're saying that safely sitting in a nice little cushy seat, smoking a blunt, a millionaire with fans all over the world, just kissing your butt. You know, no hardship, nothing to worry about. And yeah, F around and find out. I am so disgusted with Kid Rock at this point. Why not just give the Palestinians their land and their freedom, make it a sovereign nation, just like we did, just like it was done here in America with the Native Americans? There's not much else you could do at this point. Like I said, it wasn't ideal that the Europeans came over here and decimated the buffalo and just took over all the land and killed and enslaved the Native American, the native people of this land. You know, and the whole thing that happened in World War I, World War II, and Israel and the Gaza Strip. I mean, you can go back hundreds or thousands of years of who was here, who belongs here. But I think in the end, you have to just look at what you have right now, what the situation is right now. All right. You know, and what you have is millions of Palestinians on land that they've lived on for hundreds of years. You know, they're not going anywhere. Israel's only alternatives are to do what Kid Rock said, or just give them their freedom. You know, give them their own land. Let them come and go instead of these walls and these rules and these curfews and guards. It's basically a prison. The Gaza Strip is basically the world's biggest open-air prison. Of course they're angry. You know, was what Hamas did, with, you know, the 1,200 people, the 1,200 Israelis, does that justify that? No. But I could see their anger. I could see their frustration. I could see how it gets to a point where they're just like, we're going to do anything. We can't live in this, you know, in a jail cell, in the world's biggest open air jail cell. And Kid Rock's idea. Picture that, like I said. And it's just, the most appalling part is just this billionaire rock star sitting in his studio, smoking a blunt, all safe and sound, not risking a fingernail, and talking all tough. F around and find out. 30,000 of you every day. Oh man, my level of disgust and loathing for Kid Rock has never hit such a high. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest. Please share your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you think about this and what to do. You know, because you know, it seems to be an unanswerable question, an ongoing war with no end in sight. Let me know what you think. Have a good Tuesday.